pretty impossible to come from a country, say Iraq or Afghanistan, to the UK without being in the control or without paying a criminal gang. So the usual method of trafficking is people get to Moscow, and then from Moscow, the traffickers make you cross the border into the Slovak Republic, and then into Austria. And from Austria, these gangs disperse the people wherever they think is fit. And it's clandestine. They're in big groups of up to about 30, 40 people at a time. Sometimes they travel through forests and, across frozen lakes. These gangs don't care if these people live or die. If there's one person slowing the group down, they will literally beat that person to death to make sure the other group doesn't get caught. And the amazing thing is that a lot of these gangs are so well prepared that they get these groups through without being detected, and they manage to get them to France, and from there they manage to send them to the UK. And they're a mixture of people. A lot of them are genuine refugees. A lot of them are people fleeing really bad conditions, almost hellhole type situations. And some are economic migrants who are out to better themselves and want to try their luck in the UK. Some are people who want to join their families and friends in the UK because they might already be here and they've heard great things about it. But essentially, it's people trying to flee bad situations and get somewhere safe or safer than where they were at the time.
And these gangs, the people trafficking cohorts, do they tend to be from particular countries, or is it just a huge international network of criminality?
These people who run the gangs, they're pretty much like drug lords. So they're sitting in countries where there's no extradition. So they'll be in South America, some might be in Asia, and Britain knows who they are. The intelligence agencies know who they are, but they can't touch them. There's more money made in people smuggling than there is in drug smuggling. Yet we hear about governments going after drug smugglers. They've even made TV serials about it. But people smuggling, we never hear about it. When was the last time you saw in a year, say maybe 10 people be convicted for people smuggling? It's only recently that we've even had a statement from the Home Secretary saying, well, I'm going to get tough and give them life. Otherwise, it was 6 months, a year, and they act without any deterrence. So it's big gangs. The people at the top are sitting safe. The people who do take the fall are the drivers, the lorry drivers, or the people who get caught taking the containers, and they're out in a few years. It's really, really sophisticated, even to the extent that if I say to you, right, Alex, you've got no passport, no money. I want you to get from Moscow all the way to the UK without being stopped once on the way. I couldn't do it. I guarantee I'd get stopped somewhere along the line. You probably couldn't do it. We'd get stopped along the line, especially if we're in a group of 30-odd people and we've got women and children with us. Yet, how are these people crossing borders and checkpoints and without being fingerprinted or without being stopped? So that gives us an idea that of the level of the corruption, and that maybe that some border staff, not saying the UK border staff, but there has to be some people in on it who are just turning a blind eye and letting these people go through, because otherwise it's not possible to make that journey.
So by and large, these are vulnerable people, or people who, for whatever reason, have an incentive to leave their countries, to go to Western Europe, and they're being picked up by opportunistic criminals. What is the fate of many people who make that journey? Do many of them end up coming to the UK, for instance, if they make it this far, and just waiting ages and ages to be processed and being sent back home? Do many end up slipping through the net and working in forced labour?
Yeah, all of that, all of the above, I would say. So a lot of them get caught along the way. So many of them get caught along the way or claim asylum in the first country they see. And we know that because Britain is about 9th amongst the EU about the number of asylum seekers it takes. For every 10,000 British people, we take one asylum seeker. That's the fact. So that's 0.01% of the actual fact. And to give them to live on, asylum seekers aren't allowed to work. So the support actually is £5.66 a day. So each asylum seeker can claim up to a maximum of £5.66 a day to live on, including housing and everything, and his shopping and whatever his food that they're getting. A lot of them claim asylum in different countries. So France, Germany, Turkey takes the most. I think you've mentioned that before in your programme. It takes about 3.7 million. And that's more than just a few dinghies. So that's a lot. even before Turkey, people, they get to Turkey, Pakistan take a lot, Jordan take a lot, Lebanon take a lot, much more in numbers than we're talking about. We're talking about near 1 million a year of asylum seekers and displaced people. So a lot of them claim asylum in countries. Some get through to France, like I said, because they want to come to the UK, or they've been promised by the traffickers, look, that you're going to go to the UK, because they've got to be evenly spread. The gangs have to evenly spread them, and then they take a few to the UK. At the UK, they either get detected and caught, and they're processed usually in Dover, or if you're coming on a container, many people get through in a container and get out and manage to reach their communities and stay undercover. And then we have a ghost community, of which it's estimated 1.5 million people are here in the UK as a ghost community. The government doesn't know about them. They haven't got national insurance numbers. They haven't got tax records. They don't claim benefits. They're working cash in hand, often in places, and they pay rent privately to British landlords. There's big communities in different cities of people there. And they're the people who no one even talks about. Every few years, just before a general election, coincidentally, certain ministers or prime ministers say, oh, I'd like to grant an amnesty to these people. And then as soon as the election's over, these people are the first thing that are traded off and forgotten. But there are 1.5 million people already here. And to say they're a burden, well, they can't claim anything, so they're not really a burden on anything. The problem with our country and the system is our Home Office is broken. Every year, the politicians and the MPs do a report, Select Affairs Committee report, and it says the Home Office is not fit for purpose. It's like having 4 walls of a house totally cracked everywhere, and our answer to it is give them a lick of paint, it'll be all right. Instead, we need to knock this house down and rebuild it because it's rotten and it doesn't do its job properly. Those walls do not support a roof. So this, and paint isn't going to help that. So what we need to do is change that. It takes the Home Office years and years to make a simple decision, which they could make in half a day. They haven't got the staff, they haven't got the experience. When it finally makes a decision, 50% of those decisions are wrong. They're appealed. 50% of appeals win. So 54% of asylum claims are allowed to stay here because the Home Office has made a wrong decision. In the meantime, these people don't work. They might have kids here. They might have girlfriends or partners or wives or, boyfriends here. They develop relationships. And therefore, they're just sitting here waiting for a decision, stuck in limbo. If they were processed on day 1 and told on day 5, look, you can't stay here, you have to go back, at least someone's got a bit of clarity. But if you're going to say, thanks for your claim, we'll get back to you, and then 4 years later you say, oh, can you provide us with some more documents? We've just picked up your file now. I think, this problem isn't with the person who's claiming asylum or who's coming over. The problem is with how we deal with them and the system with which we deal with them. If you're going to pay them £6.66 a day, of course they're going to go and work cash in hand. Of course they've got rents to pay. No one's going to let them stay rent-free. There's no system here for that. They've got no insurance numbers. No one's going to give them a job in, say, a supermarket. Then they have to work, and that's how the black economy here in this country grows.
You've been in this business for about 20 years now.
Right.
When you see these boats coming across today, have the patterns and the trends changed? I mean, was it the case that when the Syrian conflict was making headlines, that a lot of those people in that tide of humanity snaking its way across Europe were indeed Syrians? And today are we seeing more Afghans? Or is there this entire melange of people from all sorts of different countries, some even European countries perhaps, who are sort of disguised amidst the chaos?
When I first started, wherever there was conflict, and this is still the pattern that you'd get a lot of people from. So Somalia, Albania, Kosovo, you had a lot of people coming from there. And then obviously Iraqis, Kurds, and now Afghani nationals. So the trends like that do change. However, the routes don't. And this is the key. They used to come in at Dover. I remember on 2001, on New Year's Eve, I got a phone call from Immigration Centre in Dover. Harjap, there's 52 people have just landed. Can you come down and provide us with some support? And this was immigration calling me on New Year's Eve because they didn't have any staff. So I went down there for the next 3 weeks. That was then, 20 years ago. They're still using the same routes. So we know where they come from and where they're going to land. Britain only has a limited number of ports. And yet, for some reason, governments have been unable or unwilling, and I think that's the key, to find out about who these people are who are trafficking them over, stop these people coming, using them, sending them this way, and closing down these routes at the coming through. The only thing different is now, with the media spotlight, a lot more are being detected, as before people weren't. In lorries, there were container loads that were coming off. And recently we saw the Tilbury tragedy that happened. And once again with Afghani nationals. And that was then a few years ago. And, that a lot of people came in containers and lorries. And a lot of the drivers were British nationals. And perhaps they were being paid for it and they were profiting from it. So this is how deep it runs. If we say, oh, no, it's just foreigners bringing foreigners in, it's never that easy. So you've got to look at, everyone's involved. No one can get into this country without there being a proper network. And that's just the way it is. Nothing has changed in that respect. But what I do find amazing is, hold on, 20 years ago, somebody told me he took this route from Moscow here, and this is how he ended in the UK. And now somebody's telling me I've taken that exact same route. And all of this information has been told to the Home Office. And yet they've been unable to do anything about it. So that just shows the sign of a broken system.
Welcome to the GB News YouTube channel. You can watch us live 24 hours a day, catch up on your favourite shows, and join in the conversation in the comments below.
Don't forget to subscribe and you'll never miss any of our exclusive content.